In this technique video, I'm going to show you exactly how I like to do probably one of my favorite parts of the entire bread making process, and that is shaping. So specifically, I'm going to talk about how I like to shape a batard. Batard is a French term just for an oval loaf of bread, and sometimes the points on the oval are more pronounced and almost sharp, and at other times, and probably the most common way that I shape a batard, the ends will be nice and blunt. So imagine like a football that isn't quite as tapered as a football might be. In this video, I'm going to show you the two styles for shaping a batard that I like to use, and I use each style depending on how the dough feels and the strength of the dough right before I shape. So one of the approaches for shaping a batard is if the dough is slack or weak. And I consider a slack or weak dough, maybe it's a higher hydration formula. It might be dough that's minimally mixed or mixed by hand, or it might be a dough with higher hydration and a lower protein content flour. And so it's any dough that is really extensible. It's maybe spreading on the counter when you're pre-shaping it. It's very sticky. That kind of dough will require a few more motions to get that dough into shape so that it holds its shape all the way from shaping time to bake time. The other approach is for a dough that might be stronger. So it might be a dough that's either mixed longer, has a higher protein content flour, or a lower hydration, or some combination of all of these. And that style of shaping is probably the style that I use most often. I find it very simple. It does require practice, as anything with baking does, but I find that handling kind of a stronger and stiffer dough requires less motions to ensure that the dough stays in shape all the way to baking. So in today's video, I'll show you each approach, and I'll show you some doughs that'll kind of give you an idea for what a slack and weak dough might be versus a stronger dough. And I think either approach is a good way to shape a batard. It really just comes down to your preference, what you're comfortable with, and ultimately how that dough is, how it feels, and the strength that it possesses at the time when you go to shape it. As usual, I'm using a 14-inch long basket here for this 900 grams of dough. If you're making a smaller batard, you could get away with a smaller basket. I would say anywhere between 600 to 800, 850 grams. An 11-inch basket would work a little bit better. But with 900 grams of dough, this 14-inch basket is perfect. Gives the dough a little bit room on the sides to expand outward and relax during proofing. So first, let's look at how I like to shape a slack dough. And we'll start with a dough that's already been divided. It's already been pre-shaped, and it has already undergone its bench rest for about 30 to 35 minutes. Liberally dust the top of the work surface. Dust the top of the dough lightly as well. I like to keep my hands dusted. What we want to do is grab our bench scraper, and we're gonna slide it under the dough and flip the now floured top side down. So you have floured top of the dough down on floured work surface. I like to put it down so that I have a long tapered rectangle in front of me. So the first step to shaping this batard dough is to take the bottom of the dough, pull it out slightly, and fold it up to about the middle. Then we're going to take the left and right sides and fold them into the middle again, making sort of like a little package. And you can do each side on its own. There's the left side for me and the right side. We're going to take the top, stretch it out a little bit, and fold it down to the middle. So now we really have a little package formed here. After you fold that top down, you're going to see there's two little points here. That's where we're going to start to create a few stitches down the middle, which will help give this dough strength during proofing. So grab just the top tips of the dough here and fold them over each other like that. And I like to do this 3 times. So now I'll go down to the middle, I'll grab the sides, fold it over, down to the bottom, fold it over. So now you have 3 points where the dough is kind of stitched together. Now what we'll do is we'll grab the top of the dough and fold it all the way down over the rest of the dough. In doing that, you now have a tight package. Now the bottom of the dough should be kind of sealing itself together. What I'll do is I'll take my bench scraper, scrape the dough up, and flip it into my proofing basket so the seam side is facing up. And I turn it in my hand like this, and you kind of drop it right in the basket in the middle. And you'll also notice after you've put your dough in the proofing basket, you'll have lots of space to the sides of the dough. And this space is actually good. Since we've folded this dough significantly, it's pretty tight here in the center. But during proofing, the dough is going to relax to fill the basket almost completely. That'll give this dough a nice oval or oblong shape. So now your dough is ready for proofing. Cover your basket and either place it in the refrigerator to retard overnight or finish proofing on the counter. Okay, let's talk about how I like to shape my batard when the dough is on the stronger side. So after pre-shaping, the dough is holding itself more readily on the counter. It's not spreading excessively. It wasn't terribly difficult to pre-shape. Dough is always going to be sticky, but it wasn't super sticky like I'd expect from a higher hydration or a slack dough. And this shaping method is probably the one I use most often. Very straightforward. All we're going to do is flip the round over, fold the sides in, and roll it down gently but also tightly. So what I love about this style of shaping dough is that it's very delicate. There's no excessive degassing going on here, and it's still going to impart enough strength into the dough to keep it in shape. And of course, your basket that you proof it in will ultimately really dictate the final shape of the loaf of bread. Lightly dust my work surface, and then also the top of the round that I'll be shaping. And I also like to get some flour on my hands. Next, use your bench scraper to pick up the round that you're working with. I like to place the dough so that it's long ways in front of me. So I've got kind of a long rectangle here in front of me. And I'll reposition it a little bit to make it mostly even. Do that if necessary. So pick up one side, fold it right over to the middle. You can brush off any excess flour if you have any. Do the same thing here on the other side. Fold it over. So now you're starting to have a nice little neat package. Pull the top down, seal it, and then continue to roll down as we go. And as we go, we're going to use our thumbs to push into the dough at the base to really tighten up the dough. So pull the front, seal it down. My thumbs are tucking into the dough and pushing it away from me as I do that. You can pinch the ends closed if you'd like, depending on your basket. I usually like to pinch these closed. And you can see there's a very tight skin here on the outside, and the dough is holding itself just fine on the counter. That tells you that you have enough strength in the dough. You can see how there's plenty of space on the sides of this long basket for the dough to relax outward. If your basket doesn't have as much space on the sides, that's okay. You'll just have a taller loaf that's a little bit less long. You can see how the dough is nice and smooth here. Now you can cover your dough and proof it for as long as the recipe indicates.